John Bonet and beauty queen pageants. If you haven't seen, you must see Little Miss Sunshine. Excellent movie. Alan Arkin. And this is about a little girl. She's a sweet, delightful little girl, just a plain, regular girl. Alan Arkin is her grandfather. And there's this contest at Redondo Beach, California, called Little Miss Sunshine. And she gets into it because the person who won locally, where she lives in Albuquerque, for some reason gets knocked out. So now the family takes off, and that's the much of the story of this trip and so on. I won't go into all that. But the last half hour of the movie, approximately, shows these, was it 8 contestants. And she's, a normal one. And Doug, honest to God,
I've seen it on television. I didn't see the movie. I've seen it. I've seen
7 little girls.
Sick. It is sick.
It is sickening. Honest to God, I actually became, I think, nauseated.
I saw it,
and that is what John Bonet parading around with lipstick and mascara and rouge and every makeup.
Listen to me. You don't watch much TV. No. I watch the cable news, and when this went down, as I say, I've watched it a lot. Every time they would do a story on John Bonet, they would drag out John Bonet's greatest hits. The picture of her dancing, the picture of her this, the picture of her that.
The Las Vegas showgirl costume. You like that one?
I know. But every time the story, and I was at the point where I wanted to throw something at the television. For God's sake, must you show that over and over and over and over again? As Potter Stewart said, I'm not quite sure what obscenity is, but I'll know it when I see it, or words to that effect. And that is the way that I felt. Now, they did a reality TV show on this too, where they had real people and the stage mothers and the rest of it. It is the closest thing to I've ever seen. But I got to go in another direction with you.
Okay.
Did you see the Oliver Stone Nick Cage movie?
I have not.
I got news for you. Network movie. It's bad. It's not bad. It's okay. It's boring.
Tell me if I'm correct.
See Flight 93.
The reason I'm not going to see it.
Why?
Is because I'm told it is completely apolitical. It shows it. I mean, no matter how well done it is.
I don't mind the apolitical factor. No, it's a boring motion picture. Right? It's a terribly slow motion picture.
Don't you think that he retreated because of the criticism of JFK?
No, that's nonsense. That's nonsense. Come on now. Even you can't be as paranoid as that dweeb.
I've read that.
He made the movie. It had nothing whatsoever to do with that. It was the story of these guys. Stone made a mediocre motion picture. You never forget who it is you're watching. It is tremendously slow. Even my buddy Mike in Fort Lauderdale, who worships Stone, agreed with me and loved JFK, the movie, thought it was a piece of junk. The one that you've got to see if you've never seen it is Flight 93.
Is that right, really?
That's the one that's done in documentary fashion, and there's no one in this movie that you have ever seen in your life. You get lost in that one, pal, and you feel like you're a fly on the wall, and you want to shout to these people in the plane, get those Muslims up front because they're going to kill you. That is a powerful film.
My wife, she doesn't like, those kinds of...
I can understand why. A lot of people don't want to see it.
My wife grew up in Norway with the Germans occupying her country, and she was just a little girl, a child, but she remembers, the way they came into the house and the way people were, and she's had that kind of, feeling of, things of a physical, a violent nature ever since. Little did she know when she married me, what she was in for, right?
Cacophony personified. That was a good one. No, to go back to that film, and I always sound like a press agent when I talk about the movie.
I will see it.
I hear people say they're not ready to see it. Well, geez, you're ready to watch John Benet Ramsey every night. Why would you not be ready to see this? And we've talked about this before. If she hadn't been white, if she hadn't been a beautiful little child, if there hadn't been the sex angle and the wealthy mommy and daddy and all of the rest of this, if you were lucky, you would find it on page 225 of the whatever news. There are missing children every day, raped children every day, molested children, murdered, and all the focus has been on this.
Physically abused, sexually assaulted, and it is truly, truly incredible. You're absolutely right. And, this is true, by the way, Lacey Peterson. Around the same time, I remember it was like within a month or so. There was a young Hispanic woman who was found floating in the San Francisco Bay, also with a dead child and so on. And I've even forgotten her name. I knew it and so on. I'll bet you not 1 in 1,000 people even know about it, and not 1 in a million probably could give you her name. She was just a Hispanic woman, right? So and her husband didn't have this affair and so on. I mean, who knows what catapults one case in a category.
Well, just answer the question. It had sex appeal. It had sex appeal, and they were white,
you gotta
they
be,
were
you gotta
rich,
be white. You got to be
and
white.
it was kinky. And you have to have money, and you have to be a former beauty
Yeah.
queen, which the mother was, and this beautiful child, and this whole thing with these little kids dressed up as big kids and sex scenes. That was the appeal.
Well, but celebrity actually trumps color, though. Look at Michael Jackson. If you had a case in which some guy.
Oh, celebrity trumps everything. Celebrity is colorblind. That's the one thing
very
about
good,
celebrity. It is colorblind.
O.J. Simpson and Michael Jackson.
Although it helps if you're a current celebrity, because Robert Blake was basically a has-been who hadn't been around in 8 or 10 years.
He didn't get
O.J. at least was jumping over fences or whatever the heck it was he was jumping over. Chandra Levy, I don't want to. Is there anything new on that?
No.
Nothing whatsoever. You also said, by the way, in this morning's Tribune Review, it is your opinion that going back to Ramsey, we'll move on. This case ain't never going to be solved, barring something extraordinary.
Well, but you know why?
I know why? You tell me.
Because there is no intruder. They'll never come up with one, and they can spin their wheels and talk the game and do everything they can. And Patsy Ramsey is now dead.
Right.
Burke Marshall, the older brother, has been cleared by the police. So you and I dare not ever suggest otherwise. We don't want to be sued. If they say they cleared him, they cleared him. And you got John Ramsey. Okay? So forget about it. This case is over.
Barring some just incredibly unforeseen circumstance. Cyril Wecht is the guest. The radio station is AM News Talk 1360. Well, the Dershowitz book, as far as I know, is the most recent one. It's been out a while. We're talking about the Cyril Wecht on AM News Talk 1360. And I cannot even remember the title of the book, to be frank with you.
Under what circumstances might it be necessary and acceptable?
Torture. He essentially makes the case that we are in such an extraordinary situation in the world predicated on who it is we are fighting. He recommends changes in law, this, that, and the other thing.
And he is a great civil libertarian.
There is no greater a civil libertarian than Alan Dershowitz, which is one of the reasons why the book had extra credence as far as I was concerned. If this had been some conservative guy, I would say, what do you expect? Well, this is Alan Dershowitz we're talking about here. Speaking of which, you had told me last week when we were talking that you had been in the ACLU and were no more, and that wasn't the subject at the time. But I'm going to ask you now, why did you get out of the ACLU?
Oh, I dropped out with the Skokie incident.
Really?
When the ACLU said it was okay for Nazis to march. Well, I'm Jewish, and I just found that too much to take. Did you feel inconsistent, though? In other words, there was an inconsistency on your part. I readily agree. On the other hand, implacability is the sign of a small mind. And I'm reminded, too, of the French axiom that the young man who is not a liberal has no heart, and the old man who is a liberal has no brain. Think about that.
And then what's the other definition of a former liberal? A liberal has been mugged.
A conservative is a liberal who has been mugged.
Neoconservative was a conservative.
Yeah, right. And a liberal is a conservative who's been indicted.
And there's there was another one about if you're not liberal at 20 you're something, and if you're not conservative at 40 or something.
That's something like the one I just told you about the heart in the mind. But I think, Doug, that a pox on both extremes, the ultra right wing and the ultra left. What I dislike and cannot stomach about the ultra right is the mean spiritedness of some of these people. Lan Coulter and Rush Limbaugh.
But wait, hold on a second. You're right, but they're just responding to the mean spiritedness of the Howard Deans of the world and the David Corns of the world.
I was going to get to that too.
All right, I just want to make sure you did.
They are also mean spirited. In addition, they are incredibly naive. There's no question about it.
But there's also a difference between the Howard Deans of the world and some of the folks in Congress and Ann Coulter. Ann Coulter writes a newspaper column. Howard Dean is the chairman of the Democratic Party, all right? And some of your United States senators misled, Bush lied and whatever. Those are elected representatives. That's not some skinny blonde.
I agree. And for the Democratic National Committee to have elected Howard Dean as its chairman was a very bad move.
Let me tell you something now. The political pundits are saying, both liberal and conservative, I watched this thing on C-SPAN with Robert Novak, John Fund, Cato Byrne, these are all conservatives, and the guy from Human Events. They are all saying, as is the so-called middle-of-the-road press, Republicans are going to lose 20 to 25, maybe as many as 30 seats this fall, i.e. the House is definitely going to be gone for the Republicans. Senate right now is about 50-50, which is why I don't understand why the Democrats are playing such hardball with Lieberman. If it's going to be that close, come Election Day, it would seem to me, all right, politics insists, John Kerry, I got to support the nominee, blah, 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 all right? On the other hand, they're talking about stripping him from his chairmanships and stuff like that. This is not a smart thing to do.
I agree. And there's no reason, really, for them to carry it to that point. As you say, you've got to publicly, if you're an elected Democratic official, say, hey, Lamont won, and he's the Democratic nominee, and we're supporting him. But you're right.
But on the other hand, it's got to hurt. I mean, we know it's all about politics, but geez, when you've served with a guy like Kerry all of those years, and you know Hillary and blah, 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 and all of a sudden they're saying support Ned Lamont. It's all, the line is strictly business, but that's got to sting.
I agree.
You've been in that situation.
Yes, of course. And that's the problem, well, one of the problems with a rigid two-party system, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And the fact is that, there's a big middle ground in which there is a high level of discomfort for people who are either Republicans or Democrats. What is McCain? He's a Republican. Could he be a Democrat? Specter is a Republican. Could he be a Democrat? Lieberman is a Democrat. Could he not be a Republican? You could go down.
Yeah, but those guys, in fairness to guys, McCain is trying to be an honest-to-God centrist because he believes, as I do, that most people are not rock-rib conservative or rock-rib. Most people don't read the blogs or give two tinkers dams about Ann Coulter or David Corn or whoever. They are in this big, fat, squishy middle, center-right, center-left, whatever. And McCain is trying desperately to appeal to that. The problem is, even I, who am a libertarian at heart, although I'm basically a moderate when it comes to pragmatic politics and what you can and can't do, every time I see McCain take a position this way and a position that way, it seems so political, he tends to lose credibility with me. A guy should be attracted to that sort of politics.
Well,
because I've gotten so used to that partisan left-wing, right-wing thing.
And yet, I agree with you that there's a large chunk of people there in the middle, and yet when anybody tries to form or would try to form a third party that would be predicated upon that kind of pragmatic political approach, they wouldn't go very far.
How long ago were you in New Orleans?
I was there just last week.
Just last week. Okay, when we come back, we're going to talk about it. Cyril Wecht is the guest. Doug Hoerth is the host on AM News Talk. Make your phone calls. AM to see you're going to be on with tonight.